Tony, just let me say that there are documented sources across U.S. history that provide many opportunities for us to recognize that persons who look like you have always served as allies in the cause for justice. And so for that, I am grateful. And I also recognize that there are persons who look like me, who have not always served as allies for the cause of justice. And we have accounts of that across our broad historical record. So this notion of Black Lives Matter, a difficult and necessary conversation. My keynote is informed by my research on lynching and the culture of lynching in the United States. I am indebted to many Black elders who shared an aspect of their memory with me about a time in this country when the death at the hands of known and unknown persons signaled that Black lives did not matter. I spent about 2 years traipsing across the United States, interviewing Black elders who at that time were at least 70 years old about their recollections of lynching in the United States. And for that, I will always be grateful. Many of them have already transitioned to life eternal, but their words live on and are archived at Baylor University's Institute for Oral History. I began tonight's remarks with words the Reverend Ada Renee Williams, a PhD student in interdisciplinary studies at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, California, penned. Williams shared her reflection on several social media platforms on September 14th of this year in response to an ongoing assault on Black lives in general and the September 6th murder of Butland Jean in his apartment by off-duty Dallas police officer Amber Geiger specifically. An ordained itinerant elder in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, Williams' words remind me of an urgency to remember always that Black lives matter. I invite you, as you are willing, to close your eyes and hear Williams' words. If I am murdered in my home by the police, and then the police create some BS crime, be clear, I have still been murdered by the police. Hashtag Botham Shem Jean. If I die while in police custody, no, I did not commit suicide. Hashtag Sandra Bland. If I am killed while walking home with Skittles and iced tea, no, the sidewalk wasn't my weapon and I was still killed. Hashtag Trayvon Martin. If I am killed by the police while sitting in my car and handing the officer my ID, no, I was still killed by the police. Hashtag Philando Castile. If I am murdered by the police while playing with a toy gun in the park, no, at 12 years old, I was still murdered by the police. Hashtag Tamir Rice. If I am murdered by the police while sleeping on my couch during a botched drug raid, no, I was still murdered by the police. Hashtag Katherine Johnson. If I am murdered by the police with my hands up, no, I am not a demon and was still murdered by the police. Hashtag Michael Brown. If I am murdered on New Year's morning while complying, please know I was still murdered by the police. Hashtag Oscar Grant. If I am killed in my home by police in front of my child over an earlier traffic stop, no, I was still killed by the police. Hashtag Corinne Gaines. If I am killed while in police custody after struggling to say I can't breathe. Hashtag Eric Garner. If I am killed by the police in front of a convenience store, being accused of reaching for a gun, no, I didn't have a gun. Hashtag Alton Sterling. If I die in the hospital, 7 days after Baltimore police take me for a rough ride, no, I did not break my own neck and spine. Hashtag Freddie Gray. This ain't even a complete list. Hashtag Justice for Life. As you open your eyes, I ask that you resist a tendency to say, but, or what about, or not all police, and instead consider the cost of being Black in the United States of America. where a concept of freedom in 2018 remains ambiguous. Weeks into my 12th year on the faculty at a freestanding seminary of the United Methodist Church, informal conversations with well-meaning Euro-American students remind me that as a Black woman, it is not my responsibility to accept their invitations to address historical contemporary manifestations of racism as this country's original sin. Instead, these encounters with my students present as teachable moments to encourage them to name their discomfort and or disease, and to engage in dialogue with my Euro-American liberal faculty colleagues about social historical accounts that are antithetical to the colorless accounts they often accept so readily without question. From Reconstruction to Jim Crow, from sheets to police shields, from clubs, dogs, and water hoses, to military tanks and tear gas, from Bull Connor to Jay Nixon, from Philadelphia, Mississippi to Dallas, Texas. Lynching culture is a quasi-industrial complex from which a few benefit financially from extra-legal activity. Hands Up, Don't Shoot is a rallying cry that connects Black elders' lynching narratives to on-the-ground documented accounts of legally sanctioned domestic terrorism in one too many U.S. cities. As live stream video posted on social media by human rights activists, advocates, and concerned citizens make clear, narratives about lynching culture emerge from and are informed by specific events, codes of behavior, and other socio-historical factors. In my oral histories of Black elders who remember lynching and a culture of lynching, a pattern of creative expressions of resistance emerges as an antidote to pervasive, life-negating cultural practices. To come of age in varied shades of Blackness in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and now the 21st century, symbolized and continues to symbolize to many Black persons who remember lynching that truth-telling must always be informed by an analysis of this nation's complicated and tortured fascination with terror. Unlike the Jewish Holocaust that has international recognition, though there are some who would suggest that the Holocaust did not happen, there are Holocaust deniers. And it is that denying that continues to allow us to really question what it means to be fully human in a world that is globally connected. And so we recognize that shame embodied by one too many Black persons who lived under a regime of lynching and denial by one too many who refute evidence preserved on postcards and other visual depictions really are problematic and prevents us from having real truths about race in this country. Because of its lingering but often unacknowledged residual effects, Black elders' lynching memories offer a different lens through which to evaluate personal and communal values. Given a normative privileging to scribal sources, Black elders' lynching narratives, along with a growing body of non-scribal sources documenting contemporary accounts of domestic human rights violations, when viewed as oral epistles, challenge us to reassess why Black lives matter. From collections of lynchings, aborted lynchings, murders, non-indictments, and strategies of survival, Blacks who remember lynching culture invite us to consider how their stories, shaped and still unfolding in the shadow of lynching trees, influence our notion of truth. And please remember that when someone says truth is not truth, really push back and question that. Because there are some things that really are just lies. And we need to call them lies and not call them alternative facts and not suggest that we can't arrive at what constitutes truth. For to arrive at truth allows us to move forward in our pursuit of justice. While blood or the thread of blood is etched forever in the recesses of the minds of many Black elders who came of age in the United States during a period marked by lynching, we also have to remember that there's also always this element of hope. The way in which we grasp hope, even in the midst of pervasive evil. And sometimes it's just that glimmer of hope that allows us to be able to navigate in a world where some would suggest that all should not be recognized as fully human. As such, Black elders' social historical recollections can function as points of entry to provide us with another frame of reference from which to examine diverse ways in which notions of human rights in an era of neo-lynching, characterized by the killing of unarmed Black persons, frame narratives that offer insights about individuals who make a conscious decision to go into their interior archives and determine for themselves if or how they will give voice to a truth that reflects their lived reality. My collection of oral histories necessitates an exploration between lynching and socially constructed and often interconnected intersections of race, gender, class, and other social configurations that ultimately shape a person's and a community's ethic of veracity. For it is only when we, as Alice Walker asserts in Living by the Word, and I quote, hold up a light in order to see anything outside ourselves more clearly that we illuminate ourselves, close quote. There is a connectivity in Walker's work that also fosters an interweaving of time past, time present, and time future. This way of seeing, being, and becoming challenges us, Walker posits, to, and I quote, understand we are who we are, largely because of who we have been. And who we have been has come down to us as the vibration of souls we can know only through the sound and structure, the idiosyncrasies of speech, close quote. To concur with Walker is to acknowledge that it is often through a renewed appreciation of lived experiences that we can position ourselves to discover clues to facilitate an ability to name accurately that which represents the best in society as we articulate simultaneously that which denotes the worst. Our primary objective is to discern how we use our respective points of privilege to advance the common good. Our complementary reason is to promote human dignity and equal justice. This requires, or perhaps demands, that Blacks, as Walker encourages, both reclaim and construct our narrative. She says, and I quote, it is because the language of our memories is suppressed that we tend to set our struggle to retain and respect our memories as unique. And of course, our language is suppressed because it reveals our cultures. Cultures at variance with what the dominant white, well-to-do culture perceives itself to be. To permit our language to be heard, and especially the words and speech of our old ones, is to expose the depths of the conflict between us and our oppressors and the centuries it has not at all silently raged, close quote. We find something much more profound at stake when we consider that oral histories and live stream archives as source documents also illustrate a depth of faith that enable persons to name their reality on their own terms, to participate actively in their own right of remembering as a spiritual discipline, and to find the divine, to borrow from Alice Walker, and I quote, within themselves and to love their God fiercely, close quote. Most Black elders, with at least 7 decades of life experience, may have a vivid, even if intentionally repressed memory of domestic terror created long before the horrific events that occurred on September 11, 2001, and the events that continue to unfold here in the United States. Let me suggest that the only persons who may be exempt from domestic terror in this country are those who either identify or who can pass as cisgender, white, heterosexual men. And we really need to be mindful of that as we continue to do this work of justice around this issue of race, even though we recognize that race is not a biological determinant, that it is a social construction, but it is a construction that's deeply embedded into the DNA of this country. Consider these select comments from oral histories about their experience with lynching culture that confirm that persons were executed for any little thing. They saw, but they could not speak. You don't ever want to be caught in the woods after dark. Always had to be careful where we go and what we say. It was always a fear of white people that was instilled into us as children. It's like a terror story that humanity can inflict such a thing upon humanity. You knew that people were lynched, but you didn't know a name or person. You could pick up the Negro Press and you could read about a lynching almost every week that was taking place somewhere in the U.S. In some ways, this sounds very familiar. as we think about the fact that for many of us, if we had to prove that we were U.S. citizens, we would really probably not be able to do so. I don't know if my birth certificate would suffice. I don't know if my passport would suffice. I don't know if a litany of my addresses would be good enough.